Welcome to your weekly episode of Talk, the best political Latino podcast that will be out there, folks. Because over here we talk about facts and facts and facts and feed you facts. But in order to do that, I need my hermano, my brother from another mother, Señor.
I'm Moreno. We're here to spit the facts, let you know what the media is doing, describe how the media is deceiving, misinforming, and even being part of certain propagandas, right? So we're here to get all the facts just the way it is, no BS, no walking around, just straight to the point so you can be well informed and make better decisions and vote properly.
And the topic this week, of course, is the presidential debate. We have to talk about it. Luckily, the president had one more debate. I'm glad. We're going to dive into it. But before we do, we always invite you to follow us on our social media pages. You can follow us on mmtalkmedia on Instagram, Facebook, and on Twitter. So please make sure you follow us there. And always, please make sure to like our videos and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Also, just look for Talk Media. For our Spanish speakers, guess what? This is not just a Latino podcast. This is a bilingual political Latino podcast. So we also have Soy Americano, now available on many podcast platforms. You can go to Anchor FM and look up Soy Americano. It will guide you to them. So, Jaime, the political debate. It
was a good debate. It was. Actually, it was actually way better than the first debate. Obviously, everyone across the board hated the first debate. We all just liked the first debate.
I don't know if you can.
I described it as two old men fighting while playing checkers, right? Other people were just like, it was just the worst debate. The second debate was actually a town hall, right?
Right.
So they tried to make it a virtual debate, obviously, and Trump declined. He was like, no, right?
Right.
And so instead of having a virtual debate, they did town halls, right? So Biden got his town hall, Trump got his town hall, and so on and so forth, right? So. Yeah. I didn't look at the town halls, to be honest. I did see some highlights.
Well, the town hall was a debate, but it was between him and the moderator.
Yeah, that was with Trump, right? Yeah.
When you look at the town hall, it was equally bad because the moderator, just real quick, didn't even allow Trump to speak to voters. If you tune into that town hall, it was the moderator trying to fact check Trump, and I'm like, why are we doing that? Let the voters ask the questions so they get to know Trump. There were a lot of independents and even a lot of Democrats at that town hall that didn't even get a chance.
So yeah, and that was one of the highlights I noticed for that town hall too, is that the Trump town hall, like Eddie said, it was mostly just between him and the moderator. They didn't even get enough questions, which is the purpose of a town hall, is that the people actually ask votes directly. Even if it's scripted, right? Even if you write it down for them, ask this question. Okay, we will call you, ask this question, right? Because it's been cases where they do that for debates. That type. Obviously, Joe Biden gets the more freeway, gets the more likable thing, and he did say a lot of blunders, and I know the media's not going to tell you about those blunders. He did say a lot of stupid things in there. He did make a lot of comments that were racist, but the media's not going to let you know that because that's defeating the candidate, right? That they want to win. But anyways, just tune into those. And then lastly, obviously, is the final and last presidential debate, which actually was really good. They didn't turn off no mics, right?
I know. I mean, Trump.
So,
so I don't know if you guys tune into it, and if you haven't, just go look at my key points for Trump to have an effective debate, right? I call it the key points to victory. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I said, Trump has got to be calm and poised. That was like literally my first one. What do we got? Well, Joe. I was like, whoa, yes. It was like, yes. And it was like he was calm and he was poised. Mm-hmm. He was calm and poised, and that made him effective. So very effective debate. I believe he delivered strong on several points. Can
you give us just the headlines of the points you mentioned in that video?
Okay, so what I mentioned was, as far as the key points, right? What do you have to do?
Just the key points, just name them.
So I said Trump had to basically be poised and calm. And then I said on every single topic, because there were like five topics. Hold on. COVID, family, race in America, national security, and leadership. Yeah. So those were the five. I'm still remember.
Mm-hmm. Kind of shocked. Well, you made the video, Eddie.
those were the five. And I said on every single topic, hit Biden with his record on every single of those topics. And sure enough, President Trump, and you say, Eddie, that's just so simple. If you look at that first debate, the problem is all you did was yell at Biden and tell him he's wrong. No, Joe, no. And no. Key things that your administration did, like key things, key policies, right? And then compare that to what would you say, Joe, you like on COVID? Look, my administration closed and I listened to the scientists, Joe, and I banned travel from China. You called me xenophobic. Mm-hmm. You called me xenophobic, Joe, for following the science and closing the borders. You called me xenophobic, and they brought up that lie and Vice President Biden brought up that lie that countries locked down before America, and I'm like, that's not true.
That's not true.
And we fact checked that in our episodes.
Our last episode, we fact checked that, right? So they said like about 30 countries were ahead of us, and we actually get the dates.
Yeah,
United States still at number one. Yeah. With the exception of 2 countries.
Yeah, like an actual shutdown. There were other countries that were implementing restrictions, but nothing to the sort of what the U.S. did. I think it was only 2, really.
Yeah.
You wouldn't argue. But
so watch that video, to fact check that, because I know the fact checkers aren't fact checking Biden on that. They're not going to fact check him on that. Because fact checkers are there just to try to make Trump look stupid and liar. That's all they're doing.
And we're going to get to fact checkers, and they're supposedly fact checking later on the show.
Yeah, we will.
but
yeah, that's one of the biggest lies that they keep saying.
Exactly. And then the second thing is when you get so the second thing, and this is what I said, was because you're not bringing in foreign policy. When you get to the issue of national security, you bring up the allegations of Hunter Biden, how that ties to Joe. So, folks. This is a political campaign. When allegations come in a political campaign, you have to hammer your opponent. That's the way it works, okay? Whether it's going to be true in the end or not, the allegations alone put your opponent in a defensive position, because that's what you have to do. Since Trump can't brag about his foreign policy record. I mean, go look at the video and I can tell you why he can brag about it, but he's not going to be able to do it as much. So you have to tie in Hunter Biden or Joe and his dealings as vice president. Happened before, happened after. The allegations alone give you ammo to go after your opponent. Okay. It's not because he wants to use conspiracy theory. Look, it happened in 2016. The email allegations against Hillary Clinton alone, you could argue, cost her the election. So this is, like I said, it's tactics, folks. Mm-hmm. It's not whether Trump believes on it or the campaign believes on him. But look what he said. Joe, you have a laptop. Your son has a laptop, and those laptop has information about potential business dealings. Why can't we talk about it, Joe? The president went after him in those points, and I said that was another key. And it's funny how before the debate started, he had that interview. The Trump administration actually set up a press briefing with one of Hunter Biden's former business partners, and he went after the Bidens. He's like, look, I fear for my life. I fear for my company. I fear for my business, because I told you if I went public with this, everything's going to go down. And he said he had 3 phones, right? Those phones never been tampered, but there's emails, there's text messages, and so forth. He's going to hand them over to the FBI. He's supposed to be meeting with a congressional committee this coming week. So all these allegations, again, play. And it's funny how the media try to protect Joe Biden. And this is why I said foreign policy was going to be minimized as much as possible, because they want to protect Joe Biden. And sure enough, they did. Right?
And they're doing it. And they're still trying to protect Joe Biden.
And then
because you have all these allegations, right? Mm-hmm. And they're not even taking it serious. It's all conspiracy theory. It's been disproven wrong. By whom? By Joe? The media said it hasn't been proven because Joe Biden says it's not true. So we're going to take his word at it. Really?
Oh, yeah.
But yet they go after Trump for other allegations, right? And they go full on hard. That is true. It must be true. He did the Russian collusion. He worked with the Russians. The investigation came out. Nope. Nothing happened.
Right.
And they still believe that there's collusion with Russians.
But what I said,
the thing is, like what Eddie's saying is, what does foreign policy have to do with Joe Biden and Hunter, right? What does it have to do with anything? Why can't we talk about, the peace deal? Why can't we talk about Iraq? Why can't we talk about Afghanistan? So the reason you put Biden with foreign policy is because as Biden is going around the world representing the United States, guess who's with him? And guess who becomes barista chairman? Guess who became a billionaire leaving China? Guess who's got so much money? A crackhead, a dishonorably discharged military personnel making billions of dollars, all because of the name Biden. And that's what surprises me of Latinos is that we know that in our own home countries. Oh, he's a son of a politician. Of course he makes money. Duh, right? That's normal. But when it comes to the United States, Univision, Telemundo is trying to downplay it as a conspiracy. As if Latinos don't already know, yeah, it's the son of a politician. Of course he's going to get money like that. That's the thing. Of course that's suspicious, right? And then they go on to believing that, then they change it to immigration reform or whatever.
Right.
But the reason, what I'm trying to get at is the reason foreign policy is tied up with Joe Biden and Hunter is because Joe Biden goes, Joe Hunter gets a good check. Joe Biden goes, he gets the money. He gets a place in Burisma, where Hunter himself has said, I don't even have that much experience pretty much, but I was there. It could be a possibility that my name could have factored into
right, and that's what you got to find out. And that's why I said the laptop is key. So when I issues of national security, I said, don't necessarily say you believe, but necessarily you must consider an investigation because, I mean, you call it revenge on Trump for what he went through, whatever. No. If there's a laptop and that laptop was reported to the FBI, we have to find out what's going on because you have to see if Biden broke the law. You see, if Biden got rich after he was vice president through his dealings, that's fine. But if Biden used his office to leverage business dealings, that's breaking the law.
Yeah.
And that's hard to figure out. And that's what we don't know. So far it's allegation, but folks, again, you have to understand it's a tactic to put your opponent on the defense, and that's exactly what the president did. And I'm happy he did it, and I'm happy he brought it up, and I'm happy and he did it how? Well, Joe, you got rich from the mayor and all these allegations, right? But is it true, Joe? I mean, that's why Joe, he wasn't debate prepping. He was missing for 5 days. It wasn't no debate prep. He didn't want to talk about the allegations of Hunter Biden because that's what every single media outlet was going to lead with. It's like, is there any truth to it, Mr. Vice President? Is there any truth to that, Mr. Vice President? And he's going to be no.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
So those were the first two, and then on the third, which was what I had, it was when you were trying to talk to minorities and Latinos, talk about the economic record, talk about the economic record, talk about what you've done, and then, and that's the best way to talk to Latinos. I mean, because there's not going to be a direct question unless it was race and family. And race, you got to say, well, the protection of the family, right, within the country, right, and the issue of race is like, well, I've done so much for the African American community, Joe. What have you done? I mean, I've funded historical Black colleges. I mean, I passed the First Step Act for Latinos, lowest unemployment, larger 32% increase in Latino businesses in America. All these things.
Not only that, he just took on Ice Cube's plan to help
Cube
fuse economic opportunity into the Black community. He fused that with the CEO of BET. Mm-hmm. He did an economic growth for the Black community, right? Things that the media has downplayed.
And all these things. And then when
we have what? The Latino Economic Advisory Board?
The initiative program with President Ogoya. There's so many things. And of course, all these points were brought up, but that's what I said during the debate. Since immigration at the time, I thought wasn't going to be a hot topic. And I was like, you're going to have to message Latinos in a different direction. I thought that was the best way to do it. So,
I'm surprised it hasn't been brought up. Even to this last debate, it has not been brought up. But why do you think that? Immigration.
Yeah, I know. And that's what we're going to.
Why hasn't it? Why? Well, because I mean, if you think about it, that would be technically the downfall, right? The debatable downfall for Trump. But it hasn't been asked. Why?
Wait, you said that the immigration is a downfall for Trump?
No, would be considered, right, against the media because of separation families and all that stuff, right?
It's a downfall for Biden. It's a downfall for the Biden-Obama administration.
For the 3 million deportees?
No, yeah, well, for the obvious reasons. First, right, his party is about open borders and letting people in. But if you look what the Obama administration did, it's the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And but let's just jump into it. First lie, any politician, I don't care what party,
Mm-hmm.
okay, keyword, what party they're from. Vice President Biden said, "Oh, in the first 100 days, I have immigration reform." The last time immigration reform was passed, I wasn't even an egg in my mother's uterus. Okay, I'm just being.
None of us were.
Okay, that's how old the last time we had immigration reform happened.
Eddie's old. Okay.
And you want to tell me that a man who has done nothing for 47 years is going to have immigration reform in the first 100 days? You know how I also know this is not going to happen? When Jorge Ramos is on Twitter saying, oh, you're going to pass. I mean, it's true. You deported 3 million illegal immigrants, and now you're promising immigration reform in the first 100 days. We're going to remember. When Jorge Ramos is calling you out and putting you on check, there's a problem. Okay.
1 point for Ramos, for Jorge Ramos.
Jorge Ramos, yeah.
1 point.
But the thing is, immigration reform is a catalyst for disaster because, like you said, Jaime, what is he going to say? Besides, well, I was vice president. I wasn't president. It's your administration, Joe. It's regardless. It's your administration.
You're part of it, yeah.
You're part of it. So,
and I say that in a sense because you know how the media is always finding ways. I mean, what we noticed so far is debate between Trump and the media, right? News reporters,
mm-hmm.
whether it be a debate, whether it be a town hall, or whether it be in a press conference. Mm-hmm. He's always fighting the media, right? And the media has constantly been articles after articles. I mean, just this week, 500 kids are still missing. Joe Biden wouldn't let that happen, right? So if that's such an important issue and such a hot button and such a chaotic thing that we need that. Remember, we did reports on defense, on the migrants coming. We did analysis on, you know, how many kids are crossing, how many adults are crossing, whether they're parents or not. It was such a big hot thing in the beginning of the administration that they haven't brought it up there. And I get your point. I totally get your point because it'd still be a defeat for both Trump and Biden. But knowing how the media and the moderators are, they would have hammered down Trump.
Right.
Not so much Biden. Biden would just be like, free the children, right? And the media would be hammering Trump on separations, on missing kids,
mm-hmm.
on, you know, tough immigration, on even the ban, right? The Muslim ban.
Muslim ban, which is Obama's
There's
policy.
so much ammo in terms of attacking Trump to make him look xenophobic that they haven't brought it up in the debate. And I totally understand your whole, it would be a downfall for Biden too.
Mm-hmm.
But the tactic they use, they're not going to focus on Biden. They're going to focus on Trump. And they still haven't brought it up. And I'm surprised by that. I'm surprised by that. And I don't know the answer for it now. Maybe down the road we figure it out. But at this moment, I feel that they haven't brought the immigration issue up.
And here's
only because it's gonna. I mean, it could be good and bad. It's warm up some base and take away some base.
The only reason I say it wasn't brought up as much is because, and I go back to protection of media from Joe. He is the Latino support in Pennsylvania. There was an article by NBC. The Latino support in Pennsylvania and Florida can tilt the election for Trump.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
No, so imagine if he answered that question.
If he answered what question? It depends on who's asking. Are they going to ask Joe that question or Trump?
So the moderator asked, like, Mr. Vice President, why did you deport 3 million illegal?
They're not going to ask that question.
I know. They're not
going to ask that. Even a hypothetical, I still don't believe it in a hypothetical. What is
your administration do? And this is the downfall for Joe, because then the president famously said, "Well, who built the cages, Joe? Mm-hmm. Who built them, Joe? I didn't build them, Joe." Mm-hmm. Build them, Joe. He put him in the corner again. And this is just on a simple topic of the separation of families. Now, it's interesting. I would have answered, well, you know why there's probably a problem in not reuniting these kids with their parents, Joe? Because probably, as you may have known, Joe, there has been an increase of, false claims of people actually being parents of children
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem with the separation of families. Why separation of families on the border, although unfortunate, is necessary. Because you also have to protect children from people that may not be their parents. And who knows what those intentions of those people are? Mm-hmm. Is it just for using them to cross them across the border illegally, or claim asylum, or what other intentions do they have? We don't know.
You don't know what adult might do some nasty things to kids.
Exactly.
I mean, come on. There's so many child abuse and pedophilia and stuff. But
that's
and I understand that, Eddie. I totally agree with that. I totally agree that it would still be a loss for Biden, right? Mm-hmm. But like I said, the tactic that the media uses to just hammer Trump on it.
Well,
it would be in their quote would be standing up to power, right? So it's like I totally agree, 100%, because it's still a downfall for Biden. Mm-hmm. 8 years, 3 million people. I mean, Obama is the champion in deportations.
Deporter in chief.
He is number one. Okay. Trump barely has deported 200,000, if that.
There's this chart, there was this chart that was shared on Twitter, and it compared the first 4 years of Obama to the first 4 years of Trump. Then you can't even compare them.
No,
I mean, the numbers are like Obama's still deporter in chief.
Yeah, he's still a champion. The immigrant friendly president,
right,
deported more people than the racist xenophobic.
Also, too, that's another thing and gassed them at the border. That's what I said.
And we talked about that in our podcast back in.
We talked about it too, but it's this is probably a topic for later on. But it's funny, even though the media wants to portray the care of immigrants and immigration and all that, but we still haven't had a serious immigration debate. We still haven't had it. Latinos, listen up. First of all, immigration is not the most important topic in our community. How many times Jaime has to say, I don't know how many times I have said it. But for us, if you really want to have a real immigration debate, it has to be the implications of both security and economics. See, the thing is, Republicans always want to trend towards the security of it. Democrats want to trend more to the potential economic benefit, right? Mm-hmm. And the problem is, when you overload one, that's a problem. When you negate one in the other side, that's also a problem. And I believe that's what's missing from having a true economic debate. And like I said, this is a topic we can do this in a different video.
But I just find that surprisingly that they haven't brought that subject up in the debates, unfortunately. Whether it would have played out good or not, it's all hypothetical, right? Yeah. But honestly, they haven't brought it up because
I can see them brought up.
Given the panic, the hysteria, the misinformation, the false claims, right, on immigration that keeps going until this day, and they haven't brought that up in debates. And I think that's interesting. And like I said, it's just based on how they attack Trump 24/7. So it's just, we don't know the answer. I don't know the answer right now. We'll find out later. We'll see.
And on the issue of race,
we'll probably never find out why.
Did you notice on the issue of race, they also brought up the fact that we have been hurt most of by this economy?
Oh yes, did into the next subject.
That's one thing. I started laughing, because it's like I said, el señor aquí, Jaime Moreno Fernández, and I.
Sounds familiar, huh?
We made the argument that closing down the economy would affect us the most.
Mm-hmm. Would devastate us, of course.
We said it's going to affect us the most. Don't close the economy down. It's going to affect us the most. Don't close the economy down. It's going to affect us the most because we're in those essential jobs. We're in sectors that are going to get mostly impacted by this economy, by the COVID economy. And here you are, Joe Biden, trying to say, well, he doesn't have a plan to get us back to that. No, Joe, the plan was to mitigate this virus to levels where we can reopen with precautions. And now every single governor in the blue state wants to wait for a vaccine or don't open.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. People are getting tired. And you keep trying to say that you care about us. You care about Joe. If you really cared about us, I mean, you would open the economy. And then he's like, yeah, well, we need mandates for all these things. We need also, and I want to put national mandates for masks. You want to put national mandates for reopening procedure. You want to put national, Joe, that's unconstitutional, Joe. But but you know what I mean? It's a thing that Democrats want to appeal to to their empathy and understanding, and I'm like, you're causing the problem, Joe. There's studies where he said put the precautions in. You could have had this economy open, and it's funny, like
exactly
he attacked the president. Well, he wanted to open it by Easter. In that interview in Fox News, he said, if the science allows me to open by Easter, I would do it. Science did not allow him to open by Easter. We're still not open.
We're still not open.
So the thing, and that's my whole thing with Biden. You just keep bringing this information, this lies. And luckily the moderator allowed Joe to speak so you can actually listen to what the heck he's even talking about. Because I'm like, what are you talking about? I
feel like that emoji.
I'm with Jaime all the time, and I'm like, dude, like, what is he talking about? We said don't close the economy because you're going to affect Latinos and blacks the most. And now you're complaining that Trump can't fully reopen the economy because he can't force Democrat governors to open their states up. Because you can't force a governor to open their states up because they have jurisdiction over that.
Exactly. So it's funny because the blame game, it's just funny how the blaming game is going out, right? The economy is bad. Not because COVID, not because of forced mandated closures. It's because Trump, right? So the media and Joe Biden and liberals are blaming him for the economy when he's been saying, don't close the economy. We've said it, don't close the economy. I mean, the day Governor Newsom, which is the first state in the union, California was the first to go on lockdown, right? We came out and we're against it. And like Eddie said, it's going to affect us the most. Latinos are in food, restaurants, out in the fields, construction, housekeeping, hospitality keeping, valets, mechanics, food, grocery stores. I mean, in all the critical, essential areas, we have a majority. Latinos predominate those areas, right? They predominate. And we said, don't. We were against it. Warehouses, I mean, just a bunch, right?
A lot of industries.
No one listened to us.
Shut down. Yeah.
Now that we're in economic downfall, now that a lot of people have lost their jobs, economically hurt, right? Unable to pay rent, unable to pay their debts. I mean, we went to Los Callejones and spoke to business owners, and they can't even pay. They won't even have enough to pay back pay and future pay of their leases, right?
$40,000 in back pay. I mean,
that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about an economy who's Trump's fault? When any spike, whether it be 200, whether it be 20, whether it be 1,000, close it. We spiked 1,000 today. Close it. And we spiked 200. Close it. So it's kind of like, I mean, people are going to get affected anyways. And we're not trying to downplay the deaths, right?
Right.
Our hearts and condolences for the deaths, right? It's unfortunate. But the science says when there's a new virus, there's casualties, right? Because until you find the solution to an antidote to the virus, there's casualties. Our respects and love to all the families who've lost someone. I know personal friends who have lost their parents, their grandparents, who lost their family. I feel for them. But if we continue this trend of just keeping closed down for any spike infections, I mean, some people survive it, some people don't. The survival rate is pretty high, right? It's just science. It's just the way the virus is. Our economy would have been not as badly affected. Latinos wouldn't have been so heavily hurt by it, and blacks wouldn't be so heavily hurt by it if we would have mitigated, like we said earlier, mask precautions, take the steps and all that. But the economy, social distancing, limited capacities, and so on and so forth, right? If you were to just abide by that rule. But even abiding by that rule, like here in California, which we've been abiding by every single rule the governor throws at us, we still have spikes.
Yeah.
We still have more infections.
That's
people getting sick. So continue this trend until we eventually find a vaccine, we're never going to get out of this economic trouble. We're never going to get rid of this virus.
And here's their excuse. And the media needs to stop saying this nonsense. Okay. Oh, our number of cases are going up each day. Our number of cases. Yeah, because you're doing more tests. Mm-hmm. That doesn't tell me anything.
And not only that, you could say today you could go on 10, tomorrow you could go 5. It's still an increase.
Yeah, but what I'm saying,
they're making it seem like it's like a huge.
There's some. They're trying to correlate the number of cases to potential deaths because the number of cases are going up, and the problem is the youth are the ones that are being identified as the largest group of cases, but it's still the mortality rate of those cases is low.
Is low, yes.
So gotcha. you're using the fear of cases going up to promote this narrative, but you're not talking about the death rate of that group. If that
going down, yes,
going down or non-existent. So
exactly
when you say these blue states, right? And he's like, "Well, it's not blue states, it's red states." No, yes, it is because the blue states have had more deaths right now. Okay, so I don't even want to hear it. So when you talk to me about that, the number of cases to me don't matter, especially if you're doing more testing, because I will expect a spike. If state now has some more capability of testing and all that.
Of course.
And now that the youth are testing more and more and more, I expect those cases to go up. The thing is, are people dying at alarming rates? Are people being hospitalized at higher rates? Because I still have not seen spikes to the level that we were expecting in hospitalizations or deaths. Okay?
Exactly.
That was the fear. Okay. If because I know somebody that personally that went on a foreign trip, came back, got COVID, was asymptomatic, survived. Boom, done. Okay. And that was it. And I'm like, okay, well.
I totally agree. And I think that's the difference that the media isn't drawing.
Yeah.
And it's the fear mongering. Cases. And you're right, Eddie, 100% right. Cases. Yeah, more tests, more cases. And even the test alone, we've even talked here, have provided false positives, right?
Right.
We've talked about that stuff.
Remember the case in Florida where it was like 100%? It was a 100% rate of positive COVID-19 cases. And then they found out there was something wrong with their testing kits.
So what we're saying is that we're not saying doubt the science, but just be cautious, right? To believe any hype, whether it be positive or negative on coronavirus. But what we're trying to get at here is that cases are going to go up. And if the governors are basing their numbers on cases, not so much on death tolls, then we're never going to open up the economy. Yeah. We're going to stay in here closed up, no matter how much precautions we take, right? I mean, it's going to the point that here in California, you can't even have more than 5 people in your home.
I don't know, as a Latino, that's
like what? That's like, yeah, that's like my own family is more than 5. Come on.
I mean, what if I have a quinceañera, man? So does it have to be virtual?
Not even that. If you're Latino and you live in you live in a home with multi-families.
Yeah.
You already broke the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, you already broke the rules. If there's 2 families in one household, you're done.
That's why I said when Newsom passed that rule, man, that is some anti-Latino crap right there, man. I can't.
Big time.
Family size is at least 6 or more. You know.
Yeah, my neighbor down here, it's 7 of them. And I'm just like, yeah, you broke all the COVID rules right now. just by being a family. So it's what we're trying to get at here is the economy is hurt. Latinos are worse off economically right now because of the closures, right? You can blame Trump all you want. Go ahead, do it. But the reality is that where large Latinos live at and work at have been closed because of Democratic policies to close, stay home, right? Latinos don't like doing that. Latinos like to go work. They like to be out there making money. They hate to be dependent. And we're worse off economically, not because of Trump, it's because of the forced government shutdown of everything. 1 week you're open, the next week you're shut down. Because like Eddie says, we base it on cases, not mortality rates. Cases are going to increase as more people interact. You're asymptomatic. You don't know you have it. You go outside, you interact, you might give it to someone else. Right? And that's just the way it is. And it's, there's theories of herd immunity and so on and so forth. We'll discuss that another time. what we're trying to get is that cases will go up as more people start leaving the house, start going out, start talking, interacting with each other. Mortality rate is what matters. If the mortality rate is going off the wall daily, then yes, that is concern. But people testing positive is not a big concern. It's just take care of yourself. The test could be right. The test could be wrong. If it's right, take care of yourself. You get over it. If it's wrong, redo it, and so on and so forth. And you got to look at the mortality rate, like Eddie says. And that's correct. Mortality rate, not cases. And if we keep going looking at cases, we're never going to open up the economy. But if we look at mortality rate, we pretty much feel more safer to go up and open up again. Get back to work. Get back out of the house. Get back to school. Get back to our normal lives slowly, precautiously, until we can fight this virus off. And that's really important what Trump says. He believes that we can fight this and overcome this virus. And Biden is talking about there's more people dying. His view of the virus is pessimistic. Trump's view of the virus is more optimistic. Right? When they asked him, what do you want to say? President Trump says, we will overcome this. We can fight this. We will defeat this. Biden, we're dying. We're dying. We're dying.
He's dying. You're dead.
So who do you want as a leader? A more positive outlook or a more negative outlook? And I'm going to leave it there. That's on me.
Yeah. And let's and the economy. When are you going to? Why do Democrats keep believing that raising the minimum wage?
Oh God, we're gonna go there right now. Really?
It's not. People, look, raising the minimum wage does destroy jobs. Okay, it destroys jobs. So a perfect example was the Bernie Sanders campaign, right? Bernie Sanders increased the his staff's minimum wage to $15 an hour. So the first thing that we heard about within a couple of days of that is people's hours were getting cut. People were laid off. And I'm like, well, there you go. And the problem too with the people that hours are getting cut, they started complaining that they weren't making more money than they were before. And I'm like, well, how does that make sense? Yeah, because you're working. So basically what you're trying to tell me is that you're working less hours, right? And that doesn't even allow you to make more than what you were making before, then that would prevent me from going back. I mean, I was like, there's no point. What would you give me a raise for? You're basically paying me to work less for the same rate I was working before. That makes any sense.
Which one sense is good. Yeah. But initially, they wanted a pay increase to work more hours to get more money. Yeah, right? That's the goal, right? More hours, more money.
That's the assumption.
They're not giving you more hours. You're not making more money.
That's the assumption that companies or everybody in general, by increasing pay, you increase lifestyle. But the problem is there's a thing called payroll. Okay. There's a thing called payroll. There's a thing called business expenditures. There's a thing called all these other things that they don't tell you about. And a company has to, unfortunately, right, take care of that as well as payroll. And if they can't take care of the other stuff, right, they won't be able to take care of you. And then the only thing they can do in order to solve both problems is to cut hours and cut people. And that's the problem with the minimum wage. And those sectors, again, affected by a rise in minimum wage are mostly worked by Latinos, African Americans, right? And here we go again. And here you have Democrats saying $15 an hour is the greatest idea ever. No, it's not. No, it's not.
And not only that, you can't apply that $15 an hour across the board.
Yo, you can't.
In San Diego, $15 an hour is nothing because that's how expensive San Diego is.
Yeah.
But $15 an hour in Kansas, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, South Carolina, great thing. California,
yeah, and even at that, can they support that? And then they always try to target the major companies like Walmart, Amazon, Target. Oh. I get it. Yeah, go for it. I mean, they make billions of dollars. I get it. But what about mom and pop?
That's what I'm referring to.
What about the local grocery store? Exactly. What about that local coffee shop you like to go to? Okay. What about that local restaurant you like to go to? What about that franchisee, right? Because they might have a franchisee McDonald's or franchisee Buffalo Wild Wings, whatever.
Jack in the Box and all that, yeah.
and they have to come out of their own things. They don't have the support of the corporation, right?
Right.
So you look at franchisees, you look at independent shops, that hurts them in the long run, right?
Mm-hmm.
As much as they would love to pay their workers that much money, as much as they would love to do that, but operational cost, it's not doable for them in many cases, and it's unfortunate. So
like
the
again,
minimum wage, I mean, I get it, there should be a minimum wage, but what is the limit? Right now it's 15, next time it's gonna be 20.
20.
30,
Rashida Tlaib earlier in the year said she wanted 20.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
and then you think about that's just entry level, right? Now think of the managers, supervisors, regional managers. They want their increase too.
Look, I'm gonna tell you as a personal story. I was at Walmart. Okay, I worked for Walmart, and these new wage increases came.
Mm-hmm.
There were managers at my level that were getting fed up with these wage increases because our wages weren't getting raised. You see, it's the entry level people, like Hamid just pointed out, right, or the people that were underneath that cap of raising the minimum of the minimum wage that only saw the increase. Okay, so us as when we were managers, we were like, well, it took me about 2-3 years to get to this potential pay grade, and these freaking nobodies that had, just came in are like within $5-6 of where I'm at. I'm like, what is this? And then we don't see, and we're not getting taken care of because we're over the cap. We're not under the cap. And I'm like, how is that fair? So you as a worker are going to feel resentful, right? And then the other thing that too, like Jaime pointed perfectly out, is cost of living. You cannot have cost of living the same across the board for many obvious reasons. You have blue states and red states. Some states like high taxes, some other states like low taxes, and all these other things. So you cannot have the same thing over and over and over again. And I'm just fed up. I was like, $15. It's a great idea. No, it's not. It's a terrible idea. It's like an idea with a good intention because the assumptions make sense, right? The assumptions like, well,
affordability,
yeah, we raise that, but then the consequences are always bad. This is my thing with a lot of progressive policies that Jaime finally helped me articulate better, was that progressive ideas do having good intentions that produce bad consequences. you know what I mean? Like like welfare, minimum wage, all these other things. Then I see the intention, but the consequence has been bad. Affirmative action, bad. Raising the minimum wage, bad. Universal health care, bad. All these other things, and I'm like, well, what's the dominant? What's the common factor? Government bureaucracy. But again, a topic for another day.
That's true. And that's the thing. That's some of the policies that we see here in Talk. The intention is good. We get the intentions. We get the heart, we want to help each other out. We want to be better off. Everyone wants to be better off.
Right.
But some of these policies have that good intention. The consequences are just terrible.
Yeah, the consequences has been terrible, and it's unfortunate. But
so the minimum wage is like San Diego, Los Angeles, New York City, $15 an hour doesn't get you anything, right?
You can't even live on $15 an hour.
You can't. At what, $2,000? What, $1,500 to $2,000 a month? Salaries you can't even afford living expenses in those cities, right? Which I get.
Remember,
but $1,500, $2,000 in Wichita, Arkansas might get you further out, right?
Right.
But then again, Wichita might not have that kind of economy to support $15 an hour.
An hour, yeah.
No,
but like
so it's just you got to look case by case. And it's just terrible to blank it off.
Yeah, and it's like when I took you to watch the football game at the bar, we were looking at the apartments in the surrounding area, just the surrounding area.
Yes, downtown San Diego.
Area, like, right?
Do you remember the price, Eddie?
Yeah. I was gonna say it was like $2,200 a month. I'm like, $2,200 a month. I'm like, for what?
At a studio.
For a freaking it was a studio, and I'm like, are you guys out of your Vulcan minds? Like $2,200, and you expected somebody making $15 an hour is gonna mean? I mean, you have to live with people. You can't live by yourself. You can't be self-dependent on $15 an hour.
I would do it right now, but I can't say it. I'm gonna say it. Sugar daddy or sugar mama. That's how you're gonna survive.
I don't know what you got to do. I don't know what, but the standard of living in California is the worst. I mean, it's the state with the highest level of taxes on property.
income tax,
21,
on sales tax,
9, Prop 15,
gas tax.
gas tax.
Yes. Now that he said next week, we're going to talk about the propositions and what to vote and what not to vote for.
Yeah, because
right? So just tune in next week for that as well. But
if
let's move on to the next.
If you haven't voted, okay.
If you haven't voted, if you voted.
Yeah, if you haven't voted, if you, and this is just me joking around with you, right? If you took the cowardly way out and you filled out your ballot and you send it in, don't tune into this episode. But if you haven't, because you already voted, there's no reason. But if you haven't and you want to be a man and go vote in person, tune into the episode. We're gonna go the propositions as to why and why not. But
anyway, so the debate. So just to wrap up the debate questions, I mean, the debate was good. Trump hammered down on Biden's record, which is great. That's how you're supposed to do. Because honestly, Trump is a one-term, first-time politician. He talks horrible. He might not communicate properly. He might fight with everybody and their mom. I get it.
They don't like his style.
But they don't like his style. And he's just, I mean, what are you going to do? You're first time in that position. You've never been a politician your whole life. You've never been in public office your whole life. This is your first public office, right? Usually people's first public office is like local level, a mayor, counselor, assemblyman, before they go up to the nationals, right? That's usually the case.
Oh, he had the name recognition too, so it was easier for him.
Trump, he became president on the first run for office. I mean, that's a huge thing.
I mean, yeah.
And attacking Biden on his record is perfect because not only is it like, oh, it helps Trump, but also it helps viewers understand and voters realize that a lot of these politicians have been in power for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep saying they're going to solve the problem. Vote for me and I'll solve the problem. Vote for me, I'll solve the problem. Vote for me, I'll solve the problem. When I become president, I'm going to solve it. You couldn't solve it when you had, now that you're in power, how are you going to solve it when you have more power? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
You're in the Senate for 40 years. You haven't been able to solve it.
Right.
And then you're going to be president and all of a sudden you're going to solve it. How does that work?
I love it, brought that up because it reminds me of the crime bill when Trump talked about the crime bill. Joe, you talk about institutional racism, Joe. The only thing you ever did, Joe, was pass the crime bill. That guess what it did, Joe? It passed. It put more black people in jail. And here you're complaining about systemic racism, right? You know what I did, Joe? I passed the first day tax. I was like,
whether you hate Trump or don't, that is truth. That is true.
And it's true. And he's like, you had 8 years, Joe. You could have fixed systemic racism. And he said, well, we had a Republican Congress.
I love his comeback after that. Even Trump was like, you got to talk to them, Joe. Talk into them, Joe. Talk them into it, Joe.
Comeback ever. He's like, well, Joe, it's called negotiating. Maybe you should talk to like, yes.
That's how it works.
But it was
that was great because he was able to highlight those points that a lot of people don't talk. The media won't talk about, right? The media won't mention it. They know that's gonna go against their candidate or that's too much wokeness, right?
Yeah.
To handle. And the debate was great. I didn't really see the whole thing. I saw highlights of it. I was
right.
busy,
no. Oh no.
Right.
You
those highlights were just great, huh?
You think highlights was tough, man? It was on Thursday night, okay, and I had Thursday night football, okay. This was my setup, literally at the time of the debate. I had one TV with the freaking debate on, right? Another TV with the football game. And I'm watching both at the same time.
Oh, God, Eddie.
And then I posted on Facebook. It's like, Eddie, why do you hate yourself? It's like, no, I'm doing my civic duty and the duty of a fan. So I'm supporting my team and watching the selection thing. And people were like, they were laughing. I'm like, dude, I was losing my mind.
Who says you can't do two things at once?
And then it got harder when I started getting comments on Facebook to some of the things I was posting. So I really had to pay attention to all three as they were going on. So, but it's fun. I mean, that's why I love election year because you get to talk all this trash, get your fact checked and all that. Speaking of fact checkers, we'll talk about it some other time.
We'll talk about the fact checkers in the Spanish podcast because we're going to focus on the Spanish fact checkers because it's a disaster.
Yeah.
It's a disaster. So if you know Spanish, please tune into Soy Americano because we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about the English fact checkers because
CNN already agreed that Trump did great.
Yeah, pretty much. Which is like, we don't know how to feel about this. Is it good or bad, or are they actually being good news reporters now? Like, honestly.
Yeah, no, it's like Jake Tapper and then Anderson Cooper. They're like, oh yeah, that's true. Joe Biden lied about that. Like, whoa, what's going on here? Anyways, guys, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. We'll talk about the propositions coming up 1 week out before the election. We'll give you as to what we're gonna do on election night pretty soon. Like Jaime said, please tune in to our Spanish version of the podcast, Soy Americano. Find it on Spotify and any other podcast platforms. Follow us on our social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And this is Talk. I'm Eddie Marmolejo.
I'm Jaime Moreno.
And remember,
we're tired of it too.